Right, winter is just around the corner, the leaves are falling, and that means them fish are getting a little bit trickier to catch. And for me, because of that, it is all about the fall of your bait, getting their attention, making sure they pick up those baits and you catch as many as you possibly can. So here are my few tips to get you through the autumn to catch as many fish as possible. Right, so we are going straight into it. And as I said, winter is imminently coming. This time of year, I think it's due to the clarity of water that drops. In fact, that's what it is. I know that's what it is. It's the clarity of water dropping means that fish can see things so much easier. I mean, so the fall of your bait in terms of your hook bait and your loose feed becomes, it's even more of an attractor sort of thing because they can see what's going on. It draws fish into your peg because they can see it from a bigger distance away. But because of that, they can also inspect your hook bait a lot more. They can see what is going on. So that's what we're going to focus on, all about the fall. Catching fish, I'm going to say on the drop, but it's not what I want to do. It's not about catching fish, old school thinking about it with these lovely rigs that fall through and you can catch fish at any point. It doesn't work like that. That's shallow fishing. Yeah, what I'm on about, and it's something that was massively noticeable in the latest underwater film that we've just filmed. This is coming out for you lot in a few weeks' time. It's probably the one I've learned the most on. And it was incredible watching these fish, as your hook bait in this case was coming in, they literally follow it from, on the day it was probably about 2.5 foot out of shot, and they'd whiz in, follow your hook bait down. That is when you were most likely to get a bite. It was massive. And it just clicks so much in what they're doing. When we're feeding baits like pellets, maggots, whatever, whenever we're loose feeding bait with a catapult, even a pot in some situations, those fish literally, that's the safe time, is that they see it coming in. They don't want it, they're not racing in really quickly because they haven't got that competition element at this time of year because the metabolisms are finding down, it's getting colder. So they're a bit more lethargic. So you see them coming in, see that bait, and they literally follow it to the bottom. And in that little period, that 10, 20, 30 second window, that is the optimum time you're going to get a bite. So if you can make that happen as much as possible, keep making that window occur all the time, instead of just sitting there on the bottom with your rig or never having loose feed coming in, just all plain boring on the bottom, that is when it's the hardest to catch fish. So this time they're still eating a bit of bait, so we can be aggressive, we can put a bit of bait in regularly, not big amounts, but we can feed nice and regularly, really get them fish competing. That's what I'm going to go in depth with in terms of feeding rigs today. But bait-wise, that's what I want to touch on first, is keeping things really, really simple when it comes to bait. So now we're fishing for anything that swims pretty much. Yeah, the days of being very selective, just catching big carp are out the window. They're not eating enough, we need to catch all sorts. So depending on the venue, your baits that you're sort of choosing they're going to be easily loose-fed baits, if you know what I mean. You can feed them with a catapult to keep it nice and accurate. And they're going to be baits like maggots, in particular big fat lanes ones that feed beautifully and go where you want them to. Pellets, I mean 4mm pellets for me, that's what we're going to go with today. There is no more versatile bait that you can loose feed nicely, you can cup it in, keep it accurate, you can do so many things with it, depending what them fish are doing. So we're definitely going to go with pellets today. And on the subject of it as well, that we're going to touch on in a bit, the catapults are massive. You need to be able to use a good catapult all the time to ensure that you can group bait perfectly with this. That's probably the, I'm not going to say biggest tip, it's the most important aspect of it, is being able to catapult bait really, really accurately. So using heavy catapults, like in our case, our 3.2mm, that one is the black one, the heavy one. That is literally the only catapult I use for all my pellet and maggot fishing on a pole. Nothing, no catapult will group it better than them. We might even give you a sneaky little competition at the end of the video to win one of these or something like that towards the end, but keep watching for that. But that's what it's going to be about today, just keeping things accurate, loose feeding and working out where them bites are coming. And there's so many little tricks you can tell throughout your session sort of thing, when you feed, when you put your rig in, that'll show you how them fish are actually feeding. So enough waffling, I'm going to go a little bit through the rig with you first. We'll touch on that now, and then quickly we'll get out there, catch a few fish. Right, so as much as I'd like to go catch one first, I feel with this one, it's important to talk about me rig doing what I want it to do. Really, really important mechanics to this one. So let's get straight into that. Big bits wise, I'm sat here today, I'm going to catch all sorts. I'm going to catch little carp, F1s, and an odd skimmer. So I've gone with our red elastic. Obviously that's suited to the venue, that's nearly irrelevant to what we're doing today. But rig wise, and what I'm after, it's emphasising doing this sort of thing in open water. That's why I've sat here today. I've sat on a relatively open water peg. that is the sort of method I want to talk about today. Feeding open waters, getting them, feeding, watching your bait go to the bottom in a decent volume of water. Yeah, most places we go, you're going to get 4 foot plus, 4 to 7 foot. That is the happy depth where I want to be fishing like this in open water. So today we've got 6.5 foot. I mean, good bit of water. It means that they're not going to be in between my depths. They're either going to be shallow or on the bottom. Yeah, shallow's probably going a little bit out the window, unfortunately now, but there's an option, but there's a big gap in between the two, so my bait's not going to get sort of lost in the middle. Anyway, enough waffling. So 6.5 foot. In this case, I've got a 0.5 float on, so still got a bit of weight, still got a bit of stability to it. And if I stick it there so the boss doesn't shout at me, I'm going to do it that way so you lot can read it. I've got a 0.5 finesse carbon on. Yeah, it means it's got a bit of a delicate bristle. I want the most delicate bristle possible within reason. Yeah, so in this case, I've got a 1 point, I think they're 1.5s then. 1.5, 1.4 maybe on them, but a hollow bristle, nice and delicate, 1.5 milliamp. That shows my pellet up. Really important. That's why I've gone with pellets today. It's one of the reasons I've gone with pellets rather than maggots, is because a pellet shows up so much better on my bristle, which is really important. So I know whether it's descending through the water, sitting off the bottom, whatever, I can see it because I've got that nice delicate bristle on. So, and for the depth we've got, like I say, just over 6 foot, I've got a 0.5. Still need a bit of weight to me rig. So, a couple of fine tuners underneath it. They're just to mark me depth. And then the bottom end of the rig, in the bottom 2.5 foot, if I stick that top gets under me bum, I've got a big out spreader weight. Yeah, so if I start at the top end of it and go up here, so this is 2.5 foot from me hook. Yeah, first I've got a load of number 9s. Yeah, in this case I've got 5 number 9s, equally spread, sorry, not equally spread, slightly tapering towards each other. Yeah, that creates me curve that I'm always on about. But then below those number 9s is when the important stuff happens. In that I've just got 3 number 10s over a decent amount. Yeah, it's over a good hour length of area. That's probably what, 1.5 foot, 18 inch? Yeah, 18 inches, isn't it, that? That's a good spread of shot, so it's not too much shot down the bottom. It's not gonna drag me bait down. It's gonna let my bait sink fairly naturally, but also there's just enough to show my bites up nice and clearly because I've got a number 10 just on my hook length loops there. I'm a big fan of doing that. I mean, I regularly put a shot just on my loops, and in turn that closes my loops up, just makes them a bit more streamlined. Because again, referring back to our underwater stuff, on the one, which one did we do? It was the one at Kingsby Water Park about 2 underwaters ago. It's amazing how much those loops affect the sink of your bait. They actually hold it up, they work as a little mini parachute. So I still want that to happen, but I want them subtle. So that does that. So as you can see, that bottom end is gonna sink in absolutely beautifully. Yeah, and on occasions as well, I may even take the middle number 10 out and put that above to create an even slower fall. If I feel that they're really, really watching it and I'm not getting many opportunities, I want to slow that fall down, then I might get rid of that number 10 as well. So hook-wise, I've got one of our sample hooks on, just an 18, really, really small hook I've gone with this one. Really, really delicate because I don't want it to incorporate into the weight. Yeah, I want my pellet to sink naturally. I don't want a big lump of metal dragging it down. So all the little things, you might think it's almost irrelevant, but each one plays their part in making that bait look as natural as possible in that last little bit. So anyway, enough fannying about and waffling. Now I'm going to talk about starting the peg and hopefully going to catch a few fish. Right, good to go, and I've quickly had to have a rig alteration as the light's gone funny. So all I've had to do is paint my bristle black. Nice dark bristle. It's probably my favourite colour actually. If you can see black on a white background, it probably stays the most constant all day. I mean, reds can come in and out as the sun comes in and out, whatever else. Blacks, definitely the best for maintaining consistency. But anyway, enough waffling. So quickly, I'm going to impale a pellet. And I'm going to begin with, just match the hatch. So what I have been doing with this is prepping my line. Yeah, I have not had a go. I've not fished at all, but I've been prepping my line. I think it's the way that we're going to feed, be it maggots, casters, pellets, whatever, it's a line that needs nurturing. I mean, you want to draw fish in by loose feeding. Take that risk this time of year of dragging loads of fish in straight away. But what I would do is start elsewhere. So I might start short for half an hour, catch whatever, but I've got that line long that I'm building up. I'm putting bait in, and that's all I've been doing. I've just been feeding sort of half a dozen pellets every half hour. Yeah, every half hour. I'm starving them to death. Every 5 minutes, I've been feeding sort of 5 or 6 pellets. Not a lot of bait. I mean, what's that? 36 pellets in half an hour. It's not a lot of bait whatsoever. That's probably 36 pellets there. So a tiny little bit of bait spread over a metre square, it's not going to be detrimental at this time of year towards my peg. And it's going to gather them fish. So I've just been pinging, as I say, 4 or 5 pellets. I've got a lovely far bank marker. Or what I've actually got is a stripe today of like white water. So it's really easy to be able to keep it nice and accurate. I've been feeding those pellets. And as I say, I'm going to start off with a match the hatch hook bait, exactly what I've been feeding. I have got a little pot on. And to begin with, I'm going to sneak a few pellets in with that, just to maintain accuracy. So I've got half a dozen pellets in the pot. And what they're going to do, they're going to get sprinkled in, because even with super duper catapults, I cannot be as accurate with the catapults as I can with a pot at that distance. It is quite simply impossible. Let's play dodge the leaf. But what I want to do, to marry everything up so it all happens at once, is at first I'm going to forget about my rig. Yeah, and later on what I'll start doing is catapulting at this point. But for this cast, I'm just going to shake my pellets in, shake my Tic Tacs in, then I'm going to get my rig in. And what I want is my rig to be in a big long line, so I'm going to flick it out, and I can go in whatever direction I think's right to keep a tight line. But to begin with, I'll always go upwind. So I'll flick my bait upwind. This is my first go, so I don't know if it's going to be towing backwards the other way. I don't know. This is where I learn everything on that first cast. And by flicking that rig in, that one's all settled, so I won't babble through on this one. There's a fish straight away. We come off, we missed that one. Same again, flick it in, and what you do is hold your float really tight over my feed area. That is where the fish are watching the bait come in, not to the side. They're watching it over my bait. They're watching that bait come in and it's drawing them onto that spot. There's another bite. Flipping it, there's loads of it. This is what prepping that peg is all about. I mean, gathering them fish. They're immediately on it, so now all I've got to do is work them out. But yeah, what was I talking about? So I don't want my float to move to my bait. Yeah, I want my bait to be pulled in towards my float. So being really stubborn, holding it nice and still, and that was a fish on the settle. Another tiny one, that though. There's a few little fish there that, even though I've gone quite selective with 6mm pellet, 4mm pellet, I feel like I've drawn quite a few little fish in. Same again, I'm not gonna, pardon me, not gonna feed anything this cast. Just want to see what is going on in my peg, see how many mouths are in my peg. Keep that float. See, there's loads and loads of mouths in my peg, which is good. That means I can feed more bait. I can make more noise, I can have more bait falling through the water. Just by how many indications you get in, tells you very, very quickly how many fish you've attracted into the peg. I think that's over a leaf. Love leaf time of the year. Lay him in nice. You can see that rig's taking what? Best part of 10 seconds to settle. From flicking it in to holding it tight for it to coming in right now. That's a sexy bit now. Once that bristle, once the body disappears and it's just the bristle, that's when you know them last 3 number 10s are coming in. And already there, I know I'm putting my rig in the right way. Yeah, there's no water movement backing up on itself. Yeah, probably because the shape of lake, it's a bit of a little nicky-nacky new lake, this one with lots of bays. And immediately I know my bait's working properly, it's tight. I mean, it's settling in, my float's blowing away from my bait to my right as I'm sitting here, and it's tightening all my rig up. See, loads and loads of indications I'm getting. So now we need to start feeding some bait, because I'm happy there's a load of fish in my peg. So what I'm going to do, feed a bit more this time. I'm going to get sort of 10 pellets, put them in with the best catapults in the world, then flick me bait in. Yeah, because your rig, 100% of the time, sinks faster than what your loose feed pellets do. Another thing we picked up massively on the underwater things, it is incredible how long your loose feed takes. That was a great big one then out there. It's incredible how long your loose feed takes to get into the peg. And my rig's taking 10 seconds, just hit the bottom. It probably means my loose feed's taking a good 15 seconds, I bet. I just need to tighten them up because there's loads and loads of fish in my peg still. So what I'm going to get is 2 drops with how many indications I'm getting. 2 drops off every feed, but really fast casts. So I'm actually flicking my rig in. Let's say I've got that time it takes for it to settle. Now's the sexy bit. See if we get one. And if we don't, I'm literally just going to lift up at the next bait that we get, drop my rig back in, forget about it. Feed my bait, trying to keep everything just short of where I'm fishing. Flick that rig in again. Yes, you could see when all your bites are coming on the drop. Yeah, because of the clarity of water, because of the noise I'm making, because of the bait that's falling through all the time, that's naturally when they want to feed, they want to watch it. You often find that when it is sat on the bottom, all boring, all blended in, it is when they are least likely to, I'm not going to say to pick it up. That's another indication then. A lot of fish there. But it becomes one of everything. Yeah, once it's on the bottom, it is one of however many pellets are on the bottom. Plus it's the one with a lump of metal in, which they don't really like that, to be fair. I think there's a lot of tiny fish there. Because if they were decent fish in my swim, if they were just F1s or carp or whatever, I feel like I'd have at least far looked a couple now with the way that they're feeding. Whereas this lake is absolutely rigid with little roach and skimmers as well. I'm gonna get my catty ready so I'm good for the next one. And as soon as I get an indication now like that, I'm gonna feed again. So although I'm busy laying this rig in all the time, you're still making the most of every fishing situation. You're not holding your rig out the water, feeding and things like that. It all happens as quickly as it possibly can. Put this in. I don't know what they're doing. See that? There's loads there. I don't feel like they're shallow or anything yet. They could be. I think it's just a matter of time before they actually go on the bottom and settle. Feed again. Got loads of bait in my bag. Put that in straight over the top of it. And they're fishing quick. Just need to sort these fish out now. See that pluck then? Clever little. That one's pulled it a foot off the bottom. You see what impact that bait's had going through the water all the time. There are lots and lots and lots of mouths in my peg now. Lovely. Don't know if that one's in the mouth, but it took a little bit, oh you bugger, it took a little bit longer. That took 10 minutes for me to hook a proper fish then. We've had like 4 or 5 roach. So I think to begin with, I've just drawn the wrong fish into my peg, which means I'm really glad I've chosen pellets and not maggots, because if I'd have fed maggots in this situation, I think my peg would have been absolutely infested with silverfish at the minute. So I'll put some bait in first. Flick that rig in again. Give that rig a sec. I'm just going to contradict myself and feed over the top of my rig on this one, just to see what indications I get on the float. So like that then. So that tells me they're coming to intercept that. Then pellets really, really quick. But now I'm putting it in. Those pellets are settling right now. So my pellet's just going to be 6 or 7 seconds behind them with a bit of luck, which draws them in off. That'd have gone there, that'd have been fishing completed. That would be beautiful. We've just got to try and pin them down. So I still think I'm in the period where there's a lot of silverfish in my peg. But I also think I'm drawing carp into my peg now by working out what's going on in my peg that quick. It's not about how they're feeding, it's about what's present. And my feed has definitely attracted lots of, I'm not going to say the wrong fish, but little fish. Yeah, that I'm not really catching because they're being a bit funny. But very, very quickly, then bigger fish are going to get involved now whenever it's gusting. Just going to flick it the other way, feed that bait. Let's feed it again. We've got that one. But yeah, eyeing up what your feed's created. I mean, working that out as quickly as possible. And I can see that it's drawn loads and loads in. I just need to draw the right fish in now. So I know my pellet's getting eaten on the bottom. There's no big accumulation of pellets on the bottom. What I'm doing now is drawing my fish in. And it's a bit, you feel a little bit, what's the word for it? Unproductive, sort of, to begin with, often, because you're laying rigs in really, really regular and not catching a fish. But as soon as things settle down, being proactive, putting that rig in as much as possible, it creates as many of those windows as possible. It's like the mentality of like pellet waggler fishing. in it. The more you cast, here we go, the more you cast, the more options you've got. It's the same mentality that you're thinking of here, is that once the proper fish are in your peg and they are inspecting your bait, the more often I put my rig in, within reason, do you know what I mean? I don't want to be putting in every 10 seconds, let it settle. You're looking at like 30-second casts really. And the more you can do that, even more so on the hard days, the more you put your rig in, the more options you've got, or the more chances you've got of those fish grabbing their attention, them seeing your bait. Oh, it's prop on this. I like beautiful F1s in here, because the water does go so clear. They're like really dark and lovely ones. Glide him up. Oh, he's a corpse. The size of that. That was exactly the same. You saw when that bite came, within 3 or 4 seconds of me putting my rig in. That's when the bite came. So whiz him out. Where is he? He's nailed it. He's proper nailed it. That's because the rig's a little bit, I'm not going to say slack, but it's not really tight like a soft pellet rig would be. And it gives the fish an option to nail it, or a chance to nail it, and that's what. 3 pound in net, lovely, and we're away now. I'm a bit worried it wasn't an F1, because I think fish like that in this situation, on this place, are a bit lonery, like me. Whereas if they were catching F1s, there'd be big groups of them. So what I'm going to do, quickly discard that pot. I don't need that level of accuracy. There's enough fish in my peg feeding. We can get rid of the pot. And before I go in, I'm going to be really fast. And I'm going to put my bait out. So it's there, ready to fish over. And if I can get out there within 7 or 8 seconds, nice and quick, get that rig in, I'll be putting it in very, very close to those other pellets, timing-wise, as they hit the bottom. Let's have a little look. And I want to get into a lovely routine of feeding, flicking my rig in, letting it settle, striking, jobs are good. I mean, it's never going to be perfect and you're going to hook every bite. But if I can get into that routine I'm catching every other cast, then you are absolutely flying then. While always being wary of the amount of bait you're putting in. Obviously, I don't want to build up a bait. If I'm going 4 or 5 casts that I'm putting in and not seeing an indication, I'm going to chill out on that bait. I'm not going to put as much bait in. Whereas if we're getting an indication every other cast, great, crack on, carry on feeding. There's enough mouths there to mop it all up. Although this time's first time I haven't had a bite. The cast's about done. 2 more seconds. 1, 2, nothing. Saw that. Flick it in again. Still trying my best to put it upwind just because I get a better. Something's just swirled then. I don't know if that was a fish shallow and I've just spooked it, or whether it was just one topping in the area. See him again. Hold him tight. See a little indication then. That was much higher up, that one. So you want to try your very best never to strike at the ones as it's descending. 99 times out of 100, you're just slowing yourself down. You miss them all, or you foul luck one, or it's not the way. That was better. So that was just settled. It's gone down, picked it up, and came back off the bottom. Yeah, because it's a lift. That's literally what the fish has told you it's just done. It's followed me bait down, eaten it, came straight off the bottom because it does not want to be on the bottom. Yes, it's a different fish. It's a skin bob. No, he's not. Is he an id? What is he? He is a little hybrid. But look, see where he's hooked as well. That is no coincidence, yeah? It's exactly what I'm on about, in that it's gone down, picked the bait up and came off the bottom. Yeah, because you're dragging it down because it's seen it. There's no other reason that's gone down. It has seen my bait drop. It's gone down, come back up, and I've hooked it in the bottom lip because it's up here again. When you go back in, it has left me a present of a load of smeg all over me rig, which isn't nice. But now I'm happy. Yeah, my routine very quickly, within 10 minutes of fishing, my routine has now been created. That hopefully I can just get my rig ready there. 10 pellets in me cup, nice and accurate. Whiz out there, flick rig over the top. A lovely, lovely, simple way of fishing. That's it, that wind's just nice now as well, that I can hold it tight. You can sit, hopefully that camera picks it up, flicking that rig right out. I want it in a straight line. If it's not in a straight line, do it again. Yeah, and put it whichever way you have to do it to maintain that straight line. If you've got to go downwind because the wind's too much to get the rig past your pole, do it. It just means you've got to work with your rig a bit more to keep it tight so it's not blowing away from your feed sort of thing. Little indication then. See what's going on, depending what fishing in your peg as well. Because we're fishing for F1s and skimmers mainly today, any carp are a bonus. Indication then on the way down again, don't strike at that. Wait for it to settle, settled now. The bait's just at the bottom. I'll give it that 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the time, that first 5 seconds, that's when. Now and again you can give it a little lift like that. But I feel like I'm pulling it off my spot every time I do that. I'm working it down and down my peg every time I lift and drop it. So I'll only tend to do that once. Yeah, it worked though, lovely. Yeah, that little lift and drop, same again. You little horrible fish. Came in, nailed that, and then spat me rig right back at me. Bottom straight back in, no tangles, nothing. It's good to go, and then once more for you lot. Let's see if we can nail one more, because I'm happy with that's how that's going now. That is as simply all there is to it. Say we could swap to maggots and have a really busy day catching all sorts, which at many venues will be the option. But today, just for being a bit more selective, because I know how many, there's one swirling at the back. I actually think I'd catch shallow today, to be fair. So yeah, it'd be pointless me sitting here giving you a shallow fishing video when unfortunately, winter is imminent. Or better then, see how they're right holding it up. That's a lot of fish in me peg here. Let's see if we can just catch one more for cameras. Just lay in that rig in. Now lay it in so many different directions as well. Yeah, it doesn't have to be the same all the time. You can flick it past and pick up fish that hang in past your feed. You can put it to the side. You could even put it in back to front, but I wouldn't really fancy doing that. But there's no areas, you know what I mean? You're picking off fish that are potentially intercepting bait all around your feed area. You're not worrying about a tiny little trap that's 6-inch square that you're tapping bait in, sitting there being patient. You're not doing that. You're loose feeding bait, you're getting the fish moving from pellet to pellet, intercepting them all around your peg. So because of that, you get a much bigger peg to work with. So don't be shy on flicking your rig about all different directions, as long as you keep tight hold of it to see what's going on. Is this going to go? No, I really am getting sceptical of how many pellets are actually getting to the bottom here. With how many indications I get as soon as I feed, it's definitely telling me there's a lot of fish shallow. And I'll tell you what you can do to really, really find that out, is if I put my rig in now and hopefully don't get a bite. Get me 10 pellets in me catty ready. This time I'm going to feed over the top of my float, like over the top of a settled float. Hopefully you lot will be able to see that. I don't want to get a bite this time. Is that settled? Yeah. So I put my pellets over the top of it. See how quickly I get an indication. I say 10-second window minimum. See that bite straight away? Pointless striking at it, it ain't a bite. That's telling me there's lots of fish up in the water and I could potentially catch shallow, which is what I'd do at this point. Yeah, for today I'd put a shallow rig on, I'd catch a low shallow. Still intercepting. Now they're hitting the bottom. They're getting just close to the bottom now. Now if I get a bite, it's more likely to be a bite. So I'm just going to give it a little. Yeah, that's how different that. Just getting in there with the pellets a bit at the bottom, following them in, perfect timing wise. One has gone in. The only issue with doing that is the false bites that you get before it can be a pain in the arse. That's why I'd rather do it, put my bait in, then flip my rig over the top, so I'm not seeing those dodgy bites. But that then, it couldn't be more of a perfect example of the fish. Same again, following me bait down. They don't want to be on the bottom, but they follow it down because I've got a sexy rig that they're happy to watch. Just our first F1. There's another little carp. Carpies are feeding today. But these lovely little boys are following it down, watching everything that's going on. And if I weren't having a rig, or didn't have a rig that was quite sexy, quite free falling at the bottom end, I reckon you could cut off minimum of half the fish you're going to catch. It really does limit so many fish by having a rig that's too positive for when you're loose feeding, making things happen. So with that done, that is what this is all about. Think about the fall. Think about your loose feed. Think about what your rig is doing. It is absolutely massive. And you get to see what I'm on about the importance of understanding what them fish are doing. Yeah, so many occasions, however we feed, they want to follow bait down, whether we're putting a clump in or loose feeding. Obviously, loose feeding, like I'm trying to show you today, is the best way that we can maintain that throughout the session. I mean, we can stay in touch with them, we can make our rigs work how we want them to in order to catch those fish that literally follow it down, eat a couple of bits, and then swim off. So really, really nice one. Definitely something to try throughout the autumn and winter months, just with a bit less feed than what I put in today. But along top of that, the video would not be complete without giving something away. So for this one, we're going to give away a nice little catapult package of our slick catapults. Absolutely the best catapults on the planet. And all I want you lot to do is put in the comments what elastic I've said is best in this catapult. Yeah, the catapult I use for 99% of my fishing, what is the size elastic in it? So, best luck to everyone. The winners will be chosen at random. And as I said, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, click like and subscribe for loads more content from myself and the Matrix consultants. But for now, see you again sometime.